Please sit in comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Put your attention on the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence. Become the silence. You are the silent witness. Now listen to the reading of the Yoga Vashishta, remaining established as the silent witness. Book 5, Chapter 2, continuing with verse 14. Brahma's thoughts. What does the wandering of ours in this world mean? Why are all these men and other animals bound to make their entrances and exits in this fleeting theater? What is the form of our mind? And how is it to be governed? What is this illusion of the world? From where did it arise and how is it to be avoided? What is the good or evil of getting rid of this illusion? And how does it cover and overpower the soul? Can it be made to leave by any means in our power? What did Muni say with regard to the means and effect of curbing the desires of the mind? What did he say regarding restraining of our organs? And what about the tranquility of the soul? Our hearts and minds, our living souls and their delusion tend to stretch out the phenomenal world before us. Our own souls make a reality of unreal existence. All these things are linked together in our minds and are weakened only by the weakening of our mental desires. But how are these to be avoided in order to get rid of our misery? The slender light of reason is overshadowed like a single crane in the air by the dark cloud of passions and desires. Then how am I to distinguish right from wrong? Like a goose separates milk from water. It is as hard to shun our desires, and it is impossible to avoid our troubles here without the utter annihilation of our desires. Here is difficulty in either of two ways. On the one hand, the mind leads us to spiritual knowledge. On the other, the mind seduces us to worldliness. We know not which way to be led by it. The difficulty is as great as a man climbing a mountain or a child escaping from his fear of a yaksha spirit. All worldly turmoil ends upon attainment of true joy. Just as the anxieties of a maiden are over after she has obtained a husband. When will my anxieties become still? And when will my cares come to an end? When will my soul have its holiness and my mind find its rest from acts of merit and demerit? When shall I rest in that state of bliss, which is as cooling and complete in itself as the full moon with all her digits? When shall I wander about the earth at large, free from worldly cares and ties? When will my fancy stop from its flight and concentrate on the inner soul? When will my mind be absorbed in the Supreme Soul, like a turbulent wave existing in the breast of the quiet sea? When shall I get over this wide ocean of the world, which is disturbed by the turbulent waves of our desires and is full of the hungry crocodiles of our greedy greed? When will I rid myself of this feverish passion? When shall I rest in the state of complete, unemotional stillness of mind, which is the goal of those who seek liberation, and of the all-tolerated and indifferent philosopher? When will this continuous fever of my worldliness decrease? It has irritated my whole body by its inward heat and has deranged my humors out of their order. When will this heart of mine cease to throb from its cares, like the light of a lamp ceasing to flutter without wind? When will my understanding gain its light after dispersing the gloom of my ignorance? When will those organs and body parts gain their respite from their constant functions? When will this parched frame of mine get over the sea of greed like a Garuda crossing oceans with ease? When will the light of reason, like the clear atmosphere of the autumn sky, dispel this dark cloud of my ignorance that envelops my heavenly essence under the veil of this sorry and miserable form? Our minds are filled with the weeds of Mandara plant, of the Nandana pleasure garden of paradise. But my soul yearns for its restitution in the Supreme Spirit. This passion of mine is said to be set in the pure light of reason. Therefore, I long to attain that passionless state of my mind. But my restless mind has made me a prey to the python snake of grief. And I cry out in my sorrow, "Oh, my father and mother, help me to get out of this difficulty." I also exclaim, "Oh, my sister, understanding, consent to comply with the request of your poor brother, and consider well the words of the wise sage for our deliverance from misery." I also call upon you to come to my aid, oh my good sense, and beg of you, O progeny of your virtuous mother, to remain firm by my side as I struggle to break the bonds of the world. Let me first reflect on what the sage said about renunciation, then on the conduct of one who longs for his liberation, and next about the creation of the world. Afterwards, let me remember all that he said on the existence of the universe, together with his beautiful illustrations, all of which are filled with sound wisdom and deep philosophy. Although a lesson may be repeated 100 times over, it proves to be of no effect unless it is considered with good understanding and the right sense of its meaning. Otherwise, it is like the empty sound of autumn clouds without a drop of rain. So we see that Ram is quite connected and embedded in his mind at this point. He's dealing with the emanations of the karmic traces that have been disturbed by the teaching of Vasishta. The teaching of Vasishta is a representation of pure divine karmic traces. And as such, these teachings are balancing all the false notions and ideas that fill the mind from the individual karmic traces. So it's common to go through this period of constant reflection on external teachings. Now we'll see how Ram transcends all this and becomes established in the silent witness and remains established in the silent witness. And the dialogue and ideas and questions just disappear in the mind. They disappear in the mind just like a dream vanishes when you wake up. On awakening, the dream is completely gone. There's just a faint memory of that dream that I had. Chapter 3, Description of the Royal Assembly. Valmiki continued. In this manner, Ram passed the long night with his lengthy series of reflections, eagerly awaiting dawn like a lotus, longing for the rising sun at daybreak. Gradually, the stars faded away at the appearance of the rising morning sun in the east. The face of the sky became dimly pale before it was washed over with the white of twilight. The beating of morning drums and the alarm of trumpets roused Ram from his thought. He rose with his moonlight face blooming like a full-blown lotus in its leafy bed. He performed his morning ablution and devotion, then joined his brothers and a few attendants to go to the hermitage of sage Vasishta. Having arrived there, they found the sage entranced in his meditation, in his lonely solitude. From a respectful distance, they lowly bent down their heads before him. After making their obeisance, they waited on him in the compound until the twilight of morning brought daylight over the face of the sky. The hermitage thronged with princes and chiefs, saints, sages, and Brahmins, as if the celestials were gathered for a meeting in the highest heaven of Brahma. The abode of Vasishta was full of people, and the crowds of cars, horses, and elephants waiting outside made it equal in grandeur to a royal palace. After a while, the sage arose from his deep meditation and gave suitable reception to the assembled throng that bowed down before him. Then Vasishta, accompanied by Vishwamitra and followed by a long parade of munis and other men, came out of the hermitage and got into a carriage. Sitting down in the manner of the lotus-born Brahma, sitting on his lotus seat. He arrived at Dasaratha's palace, which was surrounded by a large army. Then he got down from his car, as when Brahma descends from his highest heaven to the city of Indra, attended by the entire host of celestial. He entered the grand court hall of the king and was saluted by courtiers, lowly bending down before him, just as when a stately gander enters a bed of lotuses amid a body of aquatic birds, all staring at him. The king also got up and descended from his high throne, then advanced 3 paces barefoot to receive the venerable sage. Then entered a large collection of chiefs and princes with groups of saints, sages, Brahmins, and Hotri and Potri priests. Now let us continue established as the silent witness. And start the Trimana Sanyama process on the esoteric Maha Mantra. And balance all karmic traces that have been touched on and enlivened by today's reading. Jai Gurudev.